If you want to consistently shoot lower scores, follow this pre-round driving range routine. Through years of experience as a golf performance specialist, I've noticed that the majority of golfers do not warm up properly before playing. Warming up is not just about what you do physically, it's about how you prepare your mind, prepare your body, and prepare your swing to give yourself the best opportunity of shooting your lowest scores. I'm going to take you through a routine that I've used with many golfers to help give them better structure and to utilize their time more effectively so that they're not just rushing around on the first tee or just making it up as they go along. So the next time you play golf, head to the driving range early and follow this routine as we go. So as soon as you get to the driving range, you've got your balls and you're all set up, the first place to start is naturally going to be with short clubs and on a pitching motion. Naturally, we're doing this because this is not going to be full effort, it's not going to require maximum energy or utilizing our bigger muscles in a demanding sense. So my advice is start with a wedge, start with some short pitches, roughly 5 of these, and all you're going to focus on is purely trying to get nice, consistent rhythm. So I want to see practice rehearsals that is demonstrating what you're trying to do from a more rhythmical manner rather than a technical manner. And you're just going to keep it as simple as that for 5 balls. You can vary up your targets, but at the same time, focus on that rhythm and that strike. Stick to your wedges, so lob wedge, sand wedge, even a gap wedge, depending on what you choose to use. And you can vary these up, but what you need to try and focus on is you're just trying to gain rhythm. It's not about power, it's about timing and strike, varying up your options, varying up your wedges. We can use 5 balls, but you could use 5 balls for each club. So once you've done that for a set amount of balls, we're now going to go into a stretch. Because this is more a resisted dynamic warm-up, we want to use a light resistance band, something you can keep in your bag all the time. To start off with, you're just going to do 10 to 12 reps of keeping some tension on the band and then doing an overhead reach. We're just trying to get the shoulder joint mobilized and engaged. You're going to do enough of each of these exercises where you feel a little bit of fatigue, enough where you feel like everything's engaging. And these are just simple, basic overhead reaches to get mobilized. Once you've done that, we're then going to go back into hitting some balls, and we're going to focus this time on using the longer wedges, so anything from a gap wedge to a pitching wedge, where you're going to feel like you're going to do more of a fuller type pitch shot. And the reason I'm saying that is this is obviously a very specialized shot for some people, but I want you to think of it more of like you're doing a full swing, but at a slower rhythm. So again, you're still focusing on that rhythm and tempo and strike, but it's more about just trying to get moving. As you can see, we've not gone from all of a sudden we're at the range and we're hitting drivers within 2 minutes. So all I'm doing there is just swinging full at what feels like more like 50% by speed. And we're going to do that for 5 to 6 shots, enough where you just get some rhythm and timing. From here, we're going to go back into another exercise. So as you can see, we're kind of working our way through the bag, but in specialized shots, while also integrating a physical warm-up at the same time. This time, you're just going to take the band at shoulder height, and we're just going to pull this to our chest. So we're engaging those shoulders, and we're getting some motion kicking in. I'm going to say do 8 to 12 reps. Once you've done that, you're then going to go up to the top, so you're in an overhead position with feet relatively wide apart, shoulder width roughly, and you're just in a controlled manner, just going to reach to your side. So we're doing a sideways bend, trying to get that spine mobilized. And we're going to do roughly 6 to 8 each side. So now we're going to move on to your short to mid irons. This is where now we start to focus on more of like your full swing done in a normal speed. But what I want you to think about, this is a pre-round warm-up routine, so we're not just going to get too bogged down technically. We're going to focus on having a clear target, doing our pre-shot routine to just get that movement going, and then we're going to go walk into the shot like we're out on the golf course. So every shot, we're almost taking our time a little bit. And we're focusing on trying to get some movement going and starting to understand, okay, what's strike like, what's a ball flight like? Is there alignment where we expect it to be? Can we kind of get in the zone a little bit mentally? Because the key we've got to understand here is we are preparing ourselves technically, physically, and mentally to go out and perform. This is not a practice session. So it shouldn't look like repetition, ball after ball after ball, and just hitting and bashing. So we're working roughly 3 to 4 balls with our mid irons. So anything really probably from a 9 iron up until a 7 iron, even a 6 iron. We're now going to go into another exercise where we're focusing on warming up. This time we're going to loop the band and place it around our knees. So we're going into a simple squat motion. We're obviously trying to get our legs warmed up and engaged. So we're trying to stretch the band, good depth, nice bit of power coming up. Again, we're looking for 8 to 12 repetitions. Once we've done that, we're going to almost do a little crab walk. So we're stretching the knees apart, getting lots of tension, roughly 5 in one way, 5 the other, and repeat a few times to get those glutes warmed up. And then we can even go back into a few more squats. Enough repetitions with each where we just feel like everything's starting to engage with that lower body. Now we're going to go into our low irons or hybrids, depending on what you use. I'd recommend probably 2 shots with each club or 6 with the same club. Something where you're just doing those longer swings that the clubs are a little bit harder to strike. Again, it's about having a clear target. Again, it's about going for a pre-shot routine, something that you do on the golf course. What you should start to really get an idea of by now is how are you hitting the golf ball. And we're just feeling, see where that ball goes, focus on what we're trying to achieve. I'm not trying to keep hitting balls, ball after ball, and just look for the perfect swing or working on something too technically heavy. Naturally, whatever you're working on from a feel perspective, you'll all have 1 or 2 clear feels that you know you need to do to move as effectively as you want. That's okay, but that's got to be done similar to how we do out on the golf course. And because we're hitting those longer clubs, and now our whole body should be starting to be warmed up, more ramped up, we obviously want to hit a few less of these. So now we've moved through the bag into more explosive movements. We now need to replicate that a little bit more physically. As we're now working up to the woods and the driver, we need to start getting a bit more explosive. So the first exercise we're going to do is a forward lunge, but with a rotation. So we're integrating our whole body. So we're going to put the band out in front, lunge down, and then rotate, controlled, and then explosively drive up to the top. So we're doing stability, strength, and power all in one. So forward, controlled, powerful turn, and then explode. This is more demanding physically, so naturally we want to do a few lower reps, anywhere between 3 and 6 each side. Now we're fully warmed up and moving explosively, we're going to go with our max woods. I'm going to hit just a couple with my free wood. If you carry that, you can do this off the deck or off the tee, depending, and then we're going to go more into the driver. We know the driver is going to be a key club for most golfers. Now what I recommend with the woods is trying to visually create a fairway out on the driving range. So something that's probably 40 yards in width, that gives plenty of space side to side, and you're trying to hit that fairway with your natural swing. This is helping prepare that mind and that mental focus much better. Again, staying away from just bashing balls for the sake of it. And again, if you hit that fairway, it gives you that little bit of belief and confidence that you're moving well. And if you're hitting poor shots, like if you was out on the golf course, how would you react to that? Would you react really technically, or would you react where you're almost trying to control your mind, get more in the zone, make sure alignment's good, make sure you're clear on your target, and make sure you're fully committed. Once you've done a few there, now we're going to move on to driver. We want driver to be moving as freely as possible, as fast as possible, but with obviously as good a quality movement as you can produce. So we're going to do more balls with driver, but we're going to try and break that up. So I recommend hitting 3 drivers, having a little breather, then hitting 3 more. And you can obviously do extras in between, but always having a little bit of rest rather than just bash, bash, bash. So exactly the same principle, pre-shot routine, have a clear fairway that you've imagined, and even start to try and probably create that fairway similar to the first hole, or at least the first hole where you're going to hit driver on. So you're just getting in that performance mindset, maybe set yourself some little targets of where you can't miss it, can you then commit to your lines and targets. So this is more than just a technique session, this is a proper performance warm-up for your round. And again, just assess it, make adjustments naturally, hit with quality, take your time. If you haven't given yourself enough time before playing, this is where it's very easy to rush and just keep hitting through lots of balls as quickly as you can blindly. So that's why we want to find out if we've got a tee time, say at 10 o'clock, we want to get there for 9, then we've got plenty of time. And if we go through this routine each time with the same sort of amount of balls and quality in our mental focus, we get an idea of how long that's going to last. So then you get very good at preparing for your round of golf. It's not always possible to warm up before playing, but at the same time, if you have a routine that works for you and you know that's consistent, it's much easier to plan and be prepared in a way that you can play your best golf. Some people like an hour, some people like 20 minutes, some people don't even like any time. But it doesn't really matter what it is if it's just about it being consistent and relevant to you to give yourself that best opportunity. So now I've hit 3, this is where I'd have a little rest, and then I'd go back into 3 more. And what I would probably add in here, because we're hitting drive with max effort, is a few more swings, rehearsal, where we're just trying to swing as fast as we can with that effortless speed. So we get that rhythm in, because we know if we're about to go tee off, we might start to feel a little bit tense, a little bit anxious, and that's where we can tighten up, and that can really affect our speed and our control. So we just want to feel that, like I'm moving hard, but I'm moving freely, and then hit a few in that same respect. So now you've worked your way through the bag, you're prepared mentally, you're definitely warmed up physically, and you have a good idea of how your swing's feeling for the day. You can now head to the putting green or chip in or even straight to the tee now. But what I would also think about and recommend, providing you've got the time, is we've obviously worked our way up. So our heart rate will be up, we'll be feeling kind of quite pumped, and this is where we almost want to try and just bring ourselves down in a little bit of a calm manner. So I would always just recommend just finishing off with literally probably 3 pitch shots, but taking your time with them. So it's like, imagine you're back out on the course, have a clear target, have a clear visual of the shot you want to hit, and just see if you can just get that nice, smooth, controlled, relaxed rhythm that you want, where you're not tense and tight. And that's just going to see basically if you can calm yourself down from a physiological state and then just hit some of them. And like I say, just take your time with that. If you feel that heart rate's really elevated, this is just your chance to just gather yourself in a really relaxed way. As you can tell with this whole routine, it's all about trying to gain structure. So you have to find out what works for you, but you can follow this as a framework and vary the amount of balls that you hit for each section. On top of that, the exercises I've demonstrated are good ones to work across the board, but some of you will find them too challenging or not as specific as you'd like. For greater ideas, watch this video next on what movements to follow.